I wanted to share what I learned about the origins of our modern magical system in the West. We're able to trace the origins back to ancient times, which I think is pretty cool. So it all started with Alexander the Great. He set the stage for everything. He was alive during the 4th century BCE, so the 300s. Now, if you know anything about him, he had the biggest empire to date in history, and he was on a mission to spread Greek culture throughout the world. At the peak, his empire stretched from Greece and Egypt in the west all the way to India in the east. And while he liked to name a lot of cities after himself, the establishment of Alexandria in Egypt was a huge part of setting the stage for what was to come. He lived a very short life and died unexpectedly. This means that he didn't set up an heir. So after his death, his generals started fighting over who was going to take over the empire. They ended up splitting it between themselves. What this meant was the empire was still under Greek control. So there were many Greek colonists who moved out to these new Greek cities in different parts of Mesopotamia, India, and Egypt. And this contributed to Greek culture being spread throughout this part of the ancient world. Most importantly, Ptolemy was the one who won control over Egypt and established his kingdom. He was a historian and scholar. This would be a theme that played out in Alexandria, which he made the capital city of his kingdom and became a major center for Greek culture, learning, and trade for the next several centuries. In order to be accepted by the locals, Ptolemy adopted many local traditions and dubbed himself a pharaoh, but he was still essentially running a Greek city-state within Egypt. Under the Ptolemies, we think Ptolemy II, the Great Library of Alexandria was built, and they kept it well-funded throughout their reign. While there were other large libraries throughout the ancient world, the Great Library at Alexandria came to be regarded as the capital of knowledge and learning. As a little side note, it was at the Great Library of Alexandria that they first established version control. They were dedicated to finding the true knowledge of that text, because back then, texts were copied over by hand, oftentimes by people who were illiterate because it was cheaper. Alexandria rapidly developed into one of the great urban centers of the ancient Mediterranean world and was inhabited by a multicultural population of Egyptians, Greeks, Jews, Macedonians, Syrians, Arabians, and Indians. The Ptolemies were the last pharaohs of Egypt, ending with the death of Cleopatra, at which point the Roman Empire took over. Not long after they took over, they established the Pax Romana, which was peace across the Roman Empire, and that lasted most of the 1st and 2nd century CE. This was really important because the Roman Empire allowed people to move around without people having to worry about armed conflict, wars, things like that. They had a large area where they could travel freely. Think of like the European Union of today. And at this time, Alexandria became a melting pot for philosophy, culture, science, math, and religious teachings and practices. Think of all the different cultures that were living there. And the people who were drawn to Alexandria were scholars. And it was during this time that Hermeticism was born. Hermeticism is a fusion of Egyptian mystery wisdom from the cult of Thoth with Neoplatism from Greece and large influences from Stoicism, Judaism, and Persian religious beliefs. If you've never heard of Hermeticism, it provides us with the hidden truths of how our reality really works. Things like the law of attraction, as above, so below, that everything is energy and frequency, that all has origins in Hermeticism. Hermeticism is attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, which is a combination of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth, both of which are associated with the planet Mercury and were both seen as scribes and or messengers for the rest of the gods. As another fun side note, it was also during this time that Hellenistic astrology was born. It combined earlier Babylonian and Egyptian astrological traditions with Greek concepts, and Hellenistic astrology is the foundation of our astrological systems today. They are the ones that brought the zodiac into astrology, for example, and associated the planets with different gods. And as you probably know, our planets are named after the Roman names for the Greek gods. This melting pot of ideas developed into a vast, thriving culture of Hermetic astrological magic, which flowed into the rest of the Roman Empire through Alexandria. The people in the Roman Empire had a real thirst for Egyptian mystery wisdom, and so Hermeticism was the perfect vehicle for this because it combined Greek beliefs that were already prevalent amongst the Romans with this Egyptian wisdom that everyone wanted. Alexandria was on a downturn from the middle of the 2nd century CE as the rule of the Ptolemaic dynasty grew less stable. Both the city and the library dwindled even further under Roman rule because it no longer had the support and funding that it did under the Ptolemies. This caused the Alexandrian scholarship to decline and made other large libraries across the Mediterranean more appealing to scholars. All good things must come to an end, right? Ancient Alexandria lives on through its incredible legacy. There was so much knowledge that came out of Alexandria and its great library. I only touched on some of the esoteric topics. We owe so much to Alexander the Great, the Ptolemaic dynasty, and all the scholars who lived and worked in Alexandria, dedicating their lives to knowledge, wisdom, and discovery. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm planning some future videos on Hermeticism, as well as doing a video on the journey of our magic system and its journey to us in the present day, because there were a lot of forces that were trying to erase this knowledge from existence. If you want to learn more about the history and application of ancient magic, subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any future videos. See you in the next video. Follow me so that you don't miss future videos on these topics.